Avital, we're going live. Who do you want to do a shout out to?
To my future partner. I can't wait to spend time with you.
All right. Future partner, here we go. Guys, once again, we have an amazing guest today, Avital Miller. She is a best-selling author of the books Healing Happens in Practice. She inspires people to experience boundless energy, which she has in spades, absolute happiness and true success in order to live the best life possible. Today, we're talking about how to create the best impact for your community. Avital, how do we do that? How are you today?
I'm so good. How are you?
I am good. And I've mentioned this before, and I just have to mention it again for everyone in the audience. You had a hurt foot. It didn't stop you from doing one thing, and you just kept on persisting. I love that whole kind of attitude right there.
It pretty much did it. Most people would be embarrassed to be in a wheelchair if they don't need to be. Like a lot of people would be. And I kind of liked it. Just sit down and let somebody push you around. But yeah, my friends, we have plans to go to the zoo or whatever it might be. I was like, well, I can't walk that long, but they have wheelchairs there. If you don't mind pushing me, we're set to go. And then
That is
he put
awesome.
a horn sound on his phone and we beeped it.
No
So we
way.
had 5
No,
people
you
to
did
get
not.
out of our way.
All right, let's do that. Oh my gosh. So let's talk. You have an interesting way of impacting people, and you do it through community. You've got events of your own coming up, and you're teaching other people how to do these events to impact communities. How do we do that?
Good question. Good question. And I want to talk about the importance of this too. What really drew me to think about this and to understand the layers of this. And actually, the first thing I want to mention is that I lived in a yoga community for almost 7 years with a brilliant founder and leader named Donald Walters or Swami Kriyananda. And I paid a lot of attention to his advice in how I lead community. And then also what inspired me to develop community in this way and see a greater value of community. And that comes from my, you could say, miracle healing story. But I healed from an autoimmune disorder beyond what was expected. And then realized there's other people healing from terminal diagnoses.
Hmm.
And I started interviewing all these different health and healing experts who have those stories, whether for themselves or a client. And they've repeated those results for a lot of people to understand more about this. And that's where I put together my book, Healing Happens, Stories of Healing Against All Odds. And I pulled out of it what I call the full-bodied success mastery strategies. The first one is to focus on your reason to live.
Okay.
And this is key. Do you ever notice this, Michael, that when you post on social media some great quote, and a couple of people like it, but you post a photo of yourself enjoying life and hundreds
A
of
lot
people
more
like it?
people like it, definitely. Lots.
Yeah, it's just us living and enjoying life that creates a huge impact. So we were talking before, there's 5 pillars to
Hmm.
the concept behind the galactic experiences that I'm creating. And I love how there's these stars in the background to kind of go with that galactic feeling. We don't actually go to outer space. We just create the feeling and the sensation, right? That you could just be out of this world. But how do we create something new and different that really impacts people so that we can be living our reason to live? So that first pillar is fun for conscious people. So we understand the fun part. Then we can
Yes.
go into the conscious people part. And I guess being younger and new to a city, looking for friends and getting invited to lots of creative events. And I found that you could guess what people were doing, but they're not staying in their conscious state of mind. And I'm sitting there going, well, gosh, I don't know how to relate to these people because I'm not partaking in what they're doing. So I'm not moving to the different state of mind that they're in. So I just thought, well, let me create an environment where we are staying in that conscious state together so that we can really relate, to who we really are, if that makes sense, as humans, and have a nice, fluid experience in that way. So that is the first pillar. I can keep going, or you want to talk about something else?
No, you are already blowing me away with the things that you're saying. And one thing that we have not talked about was the healing that you actually did for yourself.
Mhm.
And I did not know that about you. What was that, and how did you do that?
Okay. Yeah, we could like dig in there. So, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. And you have to remember, so I'm in my mid 20s. I'd already been a program manager at Microsoft. And then I was a fitness director, a teacher trainer, teaching 25 to 30 classes all over town. You mentioned earlier how energetic I am, right? I was nicknamed the Energizer Bunny. And I started having issues with fatigue, my hair falling out, with my muscles turning to fat. And you can imagine like the shock, the embarrassment, but also the concern that I'm losing the abilities to teach the classes. I'm becoming weaker than my students, right? Michael, if you lost the ability to speak, you'd be concerned because how do I do this podcast that I really feel like is my mission right
It
now?
absolutely is something that's concerning to me. As a matter of fact, I'm doing voice stuff right now so that I don't lose my voice. Like, no, we want to keep this going.
Ooh,
So
good for you. Good for you. Yeah. So, um, so the concern's happening, and then I did what most of us would do, just go to the doctor. And I got okay, here's your diagnosis, here's a bunch of medicine, that's it for life.
right.
But I thought, all right, this is kind of like an arranged marriage. And if I'm going to be stuck with these diseases, like, I'm stuck with a partner that I didn't choose, then how do I live in the best way with this? And that's like opening up a can of worms, but they're not worms, they're diamonds.
Uh-huh.
And I started to read online and read books and go visit all these different health and healing practitioners. I studied with an Ayurvedic doctor in India one-on-one for 2 months. But I really combined the knowledge of the best, both East and West types of medicine, and kind of, understanding the best of all of those worlds. And I'm integrating all their techniques and kind of leveling out, which is huge when you're on hormones and not having the ups and
Mhm.
downs. And then I started meditating. I moved into a yoga community. And you might know this, when you meditate, you feel pretty good, right? Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, meditating feels pretty good, but my health issues were coming back. So I went to the doctor, and she's like, "Oh, well, that's because you're overdosed on your medication." So we lowered the dosage.
Right. And so they started you on medication, and then all of a sudden you had to just bring back the less medication to take care of what the medication was supposed to be doing in the first place.
Yeah. Well, it's like I went from medication to meditation because I keep meditating more. I level out, I start feeling good, and then I keep meditating and I start feeling bad again. We go back to the doctor, we run the tests. You're overdosed on your medicine.
Ah, that
Hmm,
makes no sense.
I
Yeah.
know. But there I was, like, I remember I was leading a group of people to hike up Mount Whitney, which is actually the tallest mountain in continental US. Here I am in Colorado with all the 14ers, but it's actually taller than any of these. It's an easier hike too. I mean, it's a long hike, but there's no weird climbing or anything. Um, but I'm training people to do this long hike. And I actually told them I'm not gonna be able to go to the top with you this year, right? So I trained them. I was on the mountain. I went part way, but I knew my body wouldn't be able to handle going the full way. You're at high elevation. It's a long walk. I was
Yeah.
having issues with my knees. Those are all parts of the problems. Like even fatigue. Like I hiked up part of the way with them, and I took a nap while they continued hiking.
Wow.
And that went, it shifted to being able to do that hike without the nap, make it to the top, travel around the world, dance up a storm. That's the amount of transformation that we can have.
So now we were talking about the pillars, and you mentioned you're overcoming your illness in the first pillar we talked about. How does that lead all into the second pillar that we were talking about, that we want to talk about?
Yeah. I think I'm always looking at what brings people joy, right? It's another reason to live as well. and people feel joy from helping others.
Yes.
And it was the minute that I brought a charity aspect into my Valentine's event, the
Hmm.
whole thing amplified. And I watched how excited people were to donate to charity. So I went, okay, like let's, I'm donating on my own, right? But now I just brought that opportunity to the community.
Okay.
And I love this because we created bags at my last event was for anti-trafficking. And we created bags and we said, okay, you're going to take a bag. So a lot of trafficking happens through coercion. So the more that you're sharing love with our young ones, the less likely they are to be coerced. So here's a bag of a bunch of gifts, including an online teen girl, motivational program,
Yeah.
and add another bag to personalize it and go give it to, some troubled teens who, we had a few boy bags too, but it was mostly, girl bags. And now I have just a few extras from the event that people didn't take with them. A lot of times you would give that to an organization and then the organization delivers it. But I thought, no, bring it to the people. Let us constantly have an opportunity where we can think more about other people. So anytime that I'm in a gathering with 3 or more people, actually even just one person a lot of times, but they're going to hear about this. And I'm like, do you know any troubled teens? Do you want to give them this cute pink bag?
And then you give them the bag, and that helps to get your word out into your community.
Yeah, but it also did something for the person who's giving it.
Right.
So this is where we're looking at the cyclical effect of how do we impact each other and feel good in the process and just help everyone all around. This is what leads us into the next 2 pillars,
Okay.
because one of the people working on the event with me was saying, well, because we do a networking game, and he's like, are you sure you want to do that versus just drop it, because you're already putting so many things into this event, like why not just focus on the one thing, the charity? And I said, no, the event is for everyone, not just the charity.
What do you mean by that? I mean, you're doing the event for the charity, right? And
We're
then
doing it for everyone
explain that.
because there's 5 pillars. So the next 2 pillars
Okay.
are, and I'll tell you how this happens too, community and uplifting the local economy. So we're building community, which makes everyone feel good. But when we're tied in to our community and know what is going on with our community, we can also feed back into the economical structure of it. When I
Okay.
create as many opportunities as possible to expose the different talents, the gifts, the businesses of people locally, then it's like we're all helping each other create a thriving economy by all supporting each other because we know what everyone is doing. And so also when I'm developing community, I'm creating community from within community. This is why having 3 personal trainers getting together to do a holiday workout and a potluck turned into the Valentine's soiree, a 250 person charity event. Okay, hold on to your hats.
Okay.
250 person charity event. And this year it might be bigger. At a really unique venue with, we were donating to No Kid Hungry. 1 out of every 6 kids in America is at risk of hunger. And we had a fashion show created for this event. This is a Devils and Angels themed event, black tie, red carpet. And we had sponsors get outfits designed and get to walk the runway. I just achieved 2 more dreams for these sponsors, getting outfit design, walking runway. I'm changing the vision of how we see beauty because I let all ages, shapes, and sizes walk the runway. They just had to be in alignment with our mission and have the money to make the investment and follow through with all the steps of getting their outfit designed. And they were the most joyful and sort of attractive or magnetic people walking the runway, like over a lot of the models, because this is like they do that all the time, right?
Right.
This was a special opportunity. We had the most entertaining date auction you would ever see because there's this whole talent portion. It was comedic. I mean, it was just a hoot. But also, it's like with the people being auctioned, I had different businesses donate the activity, whether it's a meal at a fancy restaurant or a private dining for your home or going to Elitch, it's an amusement park, gardens, or going to the botanic gardens, right, and walking amongst the flowers. So we're announcing what all these gifts are. They were also donated by all these local businesses. So we're
But
giving
all of
even
this is
more.
all that is part of the getting the community to be a part of the event that you're trying to do. So now that's how you get the community to be part of the sponsors that make the whole event bigger.
Yeah. Well, and I could keep going and going of all the things that were happening at the event. But let me
Uh-huh.
give you an example of how that happens. This one gal, she walked with we have this gal who makes angel wings as one of her designers. So this one gal, one model, she walked, and she's a dancer, but she walked with Sherry's Angels at the Valentine's party, and then she was asked to do it for the trafficking event that I just had, the anti-trafficking event that I just had. And she had another work event, so she didn't come do it. She said she couldn't do it. And then I'm talking to this one gal who's a dancer, because I said, okay, I think we need more dancers at the event. So somebody connects me with this one gal. And I already knew her, but I didn't know she danced. And she goes, okay, well, what about having fire dancing? I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And I found out we could have fire at the venue outside. But
Uh-huh.
she's like, okay, well, let me talk to my fire dancing partner and see if she wants to be involved. And she sends me the name. This is actually funny because she has a different fire dancing name from her real name. So this whole time I'm trying to get her contact info. And finally she's like, you know that I'm, this other person, right?
Uh-huh.
But she called me and I was like, oh, but I'm confused because I thought you said you couldn't be in the show. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know you needed a fire dancer. And my response was, neither did I.
And
So I'm taking the ideas that people are telling me and creating the event around that. Notice I had a small thought. I was like, yeah, why don't we get more dancers involved?
so
But
you
I don't
started
know
this
what
whole thing
kind of
out with
dancing.
just the idea of that, like you said, there were three of you that started this thing, and it grew into a community event because of being open to receive gifts from other people. Is that how it happened?
Because of just listening to the ideas. I mean, I could tell you the trajectory. This is really fun too, right? So we have 3 personal trainers. We're doing a holiday workout and a potluck. Nice size. It fits in the living room of, and the exercise room of my apartment, right?
Right.
And then Valentine's Day comes around the corner and somebody says, hey, why don't we do partner yoga instead of, a fitness workout? Because it's Valentine's Day. I was like, okay. And I ended up having a friend do it with me who's also a dancer. So we do dance movement connection. And then we're like, let's have a dance party afterwards. And then my friend's like, why don't you do it at my speakeasy? And then I'm talking to my friends who's a magician there's this little room you have to go through to get into the speakeasy. I was like, why don't we do an escape room on the way in? And then we'll have a massage and like a little meditation space. And so we have, all these people involved. And that's the first Valentine's event. And then the next year we're in a pandemic. Like, well,
Right.
what can we do? Because we're in a pandemic. So at that point, people could go with their families to a restaurant and sit at a table together, and it was social distance from the other tables. So like, why don't we sit at a table and play games and make it black ties so we can get dressed up? And somebody else said, well, why don't we do a date auction for charity? This is where the charity came in, right? And then the date
Mhm.
auction came in. And they'll just be on stage. So they'll also be social distanced from the people in the audience. And then when the people go on the date, they can decide how they want to navigate, staying social distance or whatnot, right? So this is safe. We can do all this. At the end of that event, my friend who had been both the first 2 years, he says to me, how are you going to top this? Like last year was amazing. This was even more amazing. And then it just comes out of my mouth. I said, next year, I'm going to combine them both. So not only did I combine them both, but then we added in the fashion show and all these other entertainers. We had people who train with Cirque du Soleil in Montreal. So that's how it evolved. And I just keep bringing, all these people, the ones of us who like work really well together, right? I just keep bringing them along with me. And then new ones come in, we just bring it along with me, right? I've got like the more of a back end team to help me with the event who are just like super professionals in all of the areas of business that they do. And they're like, yeah, I want to support this. So just keep going. And
So you're the one who actually you're the center. You're the thing that makes this happen, right? So And so far we're on pillars 3 and 4, right?
Yeah, we're on pillars 3 and 4. I didn't tell you 5 yet.
No, we don't. We don't know 5 yet. But what I'm saying is, all of this is happening because you had the idea of you wanted to do something for your community and use the community to make it happen. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so people keep coming to you and saying, you know what, I want to donate this, I want to donate that, and you turn it into a bigger and bigger event, and thus
Mhm.
raise more and more awareness and more money for the organizations you want to use. Wow. So what's the 5th pillar?
Fifth pillar. Okay. So I'm planning one of the events, and I'm kind of hearing one of the people I'm planning with, and sort of realizing, okay, she doesn't quite have the same goals as me, but for her, it's like, how do we do this as cheaply as possible? And it's like if you're just trying to make money for a charity, you could just tell people, hey, donate. You don't even need to have an event, put all the money into an event.
It's true.
But if we're really going to uplift people to be inspired to invest in charity, to be inspired to meet each other, to develop community, to invest in each other, to live a full life, because we're going back to the reason to live.
Mhm.
And this is my bigger mission in life, is to help inspire and uplift people. So the 5th pillar is creativity and expansion.
Mm.
I have been to many events that look beautiful and are boring for me, or that are very similar to other events. I'm like, what are they truly doing that is unique here?
Uh,
What are they doing that actually helps people meet each other? What are they doing that expands you and uplifts you to another place? And I will say this because a year ago, as I'm just starting to plan the Valentine's story for last year, the one that exploded much bigger than the other ones, I went to Tony Robbins to one of his trainings. And he
like
says,
one of the
good is not
firewalk
good enough.
trainings.
Great is not good enough. So you have to be outstanding. And right after that, I went to Disney World. In many people's eyes, Disney World is outstanding in a lot of
Mm.
ways, right? I know there's a lot of things people don't necessarily like about it, but in general, it is outstanding.
It
The
is
entire
outstanding.
time I was at Disney World, I paid attention. What are they doing that keeps the energy high and makes it outstanding? And I just used those ideas and put that into the event.
Wow.
So that is your
Yeah,
5.
Disney is outstanding, by the way. I mean, it's amazing. So go through all 5 pillars so that people can just get them all at once. What are all 5 pillars?
Yep. Fun for conscious people, charity, community, uplifting the local economy, creativity, and expansion.
Awesome. Now, do you teach people how to do this, or how do they do it themselves if they want to actually do something for their community and make
Yeah.
things bigger and better and raise
Yeah.
money and all that?
Well, I've just started to speak about it, like on my Facebook Live and on different podcast interviews, to start giving people the tips. Um, one of the ways to do that is to work with me, to
Hmm.
to help me, be on my team and watch how that happens and the different ways in which I'm doing that, because there's a lot happening behind the scenes too. Um, a lot of people have talked to me about bringing this model to their city.
Yep.
So at some point, I wanted to, because it became bigger than what I'm used to, I want to refine my sort of back end processes a little bit more, and get just a little bit more organized, get my team a little bit more succinct of having events at this level. And then some of my team will travel with me to the other cities. But then I can work with people in another city. What I prefer to do, I mean, yeah, like I can just come in and teach you a lesson and give you all sorts of tips. But you can bring me into your city as the host of this event. What I will be doing is actually spending quite a few months or a year, because I want to get to know the community. I want to build the event from your own community. Not
Wow.
so yeah, I might have like a few, team of back end people who come with me. But I want it built from the missions that you guys believe in terms of the charity. But we can work together over a period of time. Like I would need to just get in alignment with even just getting on Zoom meetings, but start networking with your community. And then we build something from there. And we might not know exactly what it is when we start the conversation, because again, we're going to build it based on what everyone brings to the table.
When you do these events, do you say, okay, we're looking to raise X amount of dollars? Are we looking for some sort of change to happen? Like, how do you uh, make the event?
Mhm.
What's the purpose of the event? In other words, I say, I need to raise $500,000 for this heart association. Is
Mhm.
that where you start, or how do you do that?
For me personally, the way I've started is I want to create something fun and inspirational,
Okay,
and that helps build community. And so that's how I've started it. And then it's like, okay, well, we would love to, donate to charity. But what I'm going to say for other cities is that if you're like, okay, I need to raise $500,000 for this charity. I mean, I'll just say I don't have as much charity experience yet to say, okay, yeah, I can help you raise 500,000. I can say I can create a phenomenal event, you know, with you for you. Um, and we can create a plan, sort of action of how to raise that money. Um, but we're not doing this just for charity. If you're having me involved, it is for your community at large. And I want to make sure that everyone gets amplified through this experience, even as they're giving back to charity.
gotcha. And when you say you want, and this is what I really want to drive home, it's not about just the single charity. It's about everybody working as a community and everybody getting something out of the event, not just that one single charity.
That's right.
Okay. And
Mhm.
what kind of like results have you seen? What have people come to you afterwards and said to you?
It's out of this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's people say, this is the best event of the year season. No, it's the best event of the year. Um, but it's just, and I had so many people who worked thousands of events tell me that I was the best event coordinator that they worked with. It's like, wow,
Gotcha.
okay.
Do you see yourself as an event coordinator or as an inspirational speaker, as a coach? How do you see yourself?
I am a galactic experiences creator.
Okay.
So everything I do kind of fits under that bubble if you think about it. But no, I mean, I'm here to inspire and uplift people. And one of the really fun ways to do it is through putting on these events. But you have to know I'm not just putting on one event. Actually, when the event happens, there's a bunch of smaller events, and then there's a lot of networking that happens in the back end for people who are helping put the event on. So it's a little bit more of a community process as well.
What's the biggest community that you think you could work with? I mean, could you work with a small city versus like a London or New York thing? How would you do that? Or is it more like you're working with the boroughs, or how do you do it?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder about like big cities. You probably have to, because they have pockets of communities. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So living in Denver, there's pockets of communities, but there's a community at large, because every
Hmm.
time I go somewhere, almost like that's out in public, I run into somebody I know. It's a pretty big city, but I also know a lot of people at this point. But that makes it feel like a community, because there's kind of like always something that ties us back together. I think about being in New York City. I mean, have I ever randomly run into anyone in New York City like who I knew? I can't think of that. Um, it's always
I was
been,
just trying to think Chicago. There's a lot of people, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's always been like this deliberate thing. And so we would just have to slowly build in. But I think what it needs to be is somebody contacts me who already has like at least one community to start with. And then
Okay.
we start with that as a base. And then we say, okay, well, who else wants to join this community? Who else wants to join this mission? Or who just wants to show up for an amazing event, on this night? And let's figure out how to do the appropriate PR so that the word gets out. And then when they're at the event and they go, oh my gosh, like this is really great. It's unique. It's different. And then you say, okay, well, come do some more with us.
Yeah. So I mean, you're building viral events. I mean, is kind of like you start with the seed and then it just grows and it just attracts other people into your events, which is
Mhm.
very cool.
Yeah.
Like I've worked as a photographer for event companies, and it's usually like it's the one event happening on the one day and that's it. You're
Mhm.
done.
Mhm.
Yours sounds much more. organic than that. The growth potential of it is much more organic than just a single event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's my goal to, at some point, even have events for the big event like play out throughout the year. Obviously, when we start to do this in multiple cities, like I can't be there for all of it, but there needs to be other people running it in each city too.
Actually, that would be pretty cool, right? So you start with some charity, and it's a charity that's, I guess, national or international,
Mhm.
and then you have
Or
collective
local.
cities put it together, right? That's
Yeah. Or
cool.
local. Mhm.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah.
People need to work with you, and there are several ways that people can find you. I found out that you have more ways for people to get you than anyone I've ever talked to. I love that.
I never try to decide which URLs should we put up.
I just want to show some of the people the things that you do. I mean, you've got your own website here. You definitely have your healinghappensforyou.com. That's
Mhm.
nice. You're on Facebook. People can get you there. Not just that, this one, but you have two Facebooks at least, and we've got you on Instagram. And the soiree that you were getting ready to do is the Valentine's soiree. So if people want to see what you've put together and how you might be able to help them, they can look at the valentinesoiree.com just to get an immense a look at the scope of what it is that you do. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, and as it's February 11, 2023 is the next one. As we finalize more of the details of the event, we'll add more onto that website there. But the key is, I want people to know, is that we will live stream it. So if you can't make it to Denver, Colorado, but you want to be a part of this, you can watch the live stream. You can donate through our website, and that's already up. You can bid on silent auction items that are easy to get anywhere. I don't have to deal with like shipping all these silent auction items. But you can bid on the date auction as long as you're ready to come to Denver for your date.
they can't do virtual dates. We'll see. Okay. And just in case people didn't get those, they can hit your link tree and check you out where you are on Linktree, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm going to leave that up. I really, really, every time I talk to you, you blow me away with something new, and it's overwhelming, all the things that you're doing. So I just want to thank you for being on again, and it's been fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we will have you on again. So thank you
Yay.
very much. Bye, everybody.